Hello my schoolers, welcome to my school channel. My name is Alexandra, and in this video we are going to be tackling the past question for the subject literature in English year 2010. So please stay with us, don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to my school channel. So in this video we're going to be tackling question 1 to 20. So let's begin with question 1. Both comedy and tragedy have dash: A, climax; B, tragic hero; C, stanza; D, happy ending. Now we know that climax is the peak part of a story. It's usually the highest point of a story where it gets very interesting, very intense, very exciting. And this is a structure of a story or narrative. Climax is a structure of a story, okay? And we don't just have climax. We have the introduction, or what we call the exposition. We have the rising action. Then next is the climax, okay? And next we have the falling action, and lastly we have the resolution. So these are the structures that make up a narrative or a story. So climax is one element that is regarded as the most exciting, the most interesting part of a story. So whether the play is a tragedy, whether it's a comedy, whether the story or narrative is a comedy or tragedy or tragic comedy, which combines the feature of comedy and tragedy, it will have a climax, okay? So the answer to this question is definitely option A, climax. Question 2. A formal, dignified speech or writing praising a person or thing for past or present deeds is dash. Option A, eulogy; option B, anthology; option C, lampoon; option D, premiere. The answer to this question is eulogy. Now, when you think of eulogy, you think of praise or praises. So it's a piece of writing or a speech that praises someone or something, okay? Anthology is a published collection of, say, poems or other piece of writing. Lampoon is a literary device that criticizes something by using ridicule or sarcasm or irony. Okay, premiere is just first performance. Okay, so the answer to this question is definitely A, eulogy. Question 3. The narrative style in which the hero tells his own story directly is the dash. The answer to this question is option B, first person narrative. We have the first person narrative, we have the second person narrative, and we also have the third person narrative. In the first person narrative, it tells us the story directly using the first person pronouns such as I, me, we, and so on and so forth. So you will read something like this: I went to the market, I met Mrs. Adebayo, she gave me. Okay, so you see pronouns like that used, and this tells us that the person, okay, is involved in that story, right? I, me, okay? Now, when we talk about the third person, we know that this is a narrative that uses the third person, like he, she, they, and all of that, okay? So when we talk about subjective and objective, I like to think of it as perspective, narrative perspective, okay? Subjective narrative or narration as a narrator that tells us the story through the lens of a character, or one character at a time. Okay, so this narrator knows some of the character, and so he expresses the character's feeling and opinion in his own way. Okay, we get the feeling that this narrator knows the character, okay, knows some of these characters. But for objective narration, the narrator is just an observer. It tells us about these characters, but it does not give us his own opinion. It's not opinionated about them. It's just standing there as an observer, fully developing all of his characters, okay? So the answer to this question is definitely option B, first person narrative. Question 4. The physical, historical, or cultural background of a literary work is referred to as dash. Okay, option A, plot; option B, time; option C, settings; option D, episode. The answer to this question is definitely settings. I know a lot will define setting as the time and place of a literary work, but this definition and the elements that make up this definition can be stretched. For example, if we read a text and we get an insight that the text is set in, let's say, the 1920s, this is historical, right? And this ticks that. Historical, it gives us the time, when, we know when. If we read a text and we say, oh, this text is set in Nigeria, because we see words or we have elements in the text that represents the African culture, such as names, such as places, such as, there could be elements of code switching and code mixing using some indigenous words, indigenous languages. So this ticks the box of cultural background, and this is what makes up or embodies settings. So settings will go beyond or stretches beyond just time and place. We talk about the cultural background, we talk about the atmosphere, we talk about the historical perspective of a literary text. So the answer to this question is definitely settings. Question 5. A plot structure that defies chronology can be described as dash. Option A, circular. Option B, episodic. Option C, organic. Option D, open-ended. The answer to this question is definitely option B, episodic. So when we talk about plot structure, there are different types of plot structure, but the most common are episodic plots and organic plots. Organic plots are plots that follow arrangement of events in time. So they are orderly, they are chronologically. But for episodics, they defy chronology. They do not follow a particular arrangement in time. Okay, they are like series. Episodic plots are like series because they have loosely related incidents. For example, we have the Johnsons or the flatmates. So whatever they do this week is different from what they will do next week. So what ties them together, or what the common ground, is the fact that they use the same characters, right? Or the same theme, okay, which sometimes talks about family, or the essence of family and all of that. So for episodic plots, it defies chronology, okay, it's series, okay? So the answer to this question is definitely option B. Question 6. Pun as a literary device deals with A, placing words side by side. B, playing on words. D, arrangement of words. Option D, placing two opposite phrases. The answer to this question is option B, playing on words. So pun is a figure of speech or a literary device that play on words, okay? So for example, your money is safe in a safe, okay? We can also have, it is better to be late than be delayed, okay? So it's just basically a play on words with meaning, of course. So the answer to this question is option B, playing on words. Question 7. In a narrative poem, the poet attempts to dash. Option A, describe a place. Option B, preach a sermon. Option C, tell a story. Option D, summarize a story. The answer to this question is definitely option C, tell a story. A narrative poem tells a story. Just as a narrative essay tells a story, same applies to a narrative poem. It basically tells a story. It doesn't describe, but it tells us about something, an incident, okay? So the answer to this question is option C, tell a story. Do not forget that you can take practice questions with our simulated JAMB CBT past questions. All you need to do is you click on the link in the description below. It takes you to the Myschool website. There you have to download Myschool mobile app for your Android phones and Myschool software for your computers and laptops. Please go ahead and download and start practicing for your upcoming examinations. Now moving on to question 8. The account of an experience of an individual during the course of a journey is known as dash. An autobiography. Option B, a catalogue. Option C, a memoir. Option D, a travelogue. The answer to this question is travelogue. Travelogue is a story, a book that tells us of an individual's experience while traveling or while he or she is on a journey. So the answer to this question is definitely option D. But when we think about a memoir is a story that gives accounts of a person's personal experience or knowledge about an event, okay? A catalog is just a list of items. An autobiography is a story about a person's life written by that same person. So if I were to be writing a story about my life, I'm writing an autobiography. So the answer to this question is option D, a travelogue. I believe you're enjoying this content. If yes, do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the bell notification to get informed as soon as we release the next videos. Question 9. Satirical writing employs dash. Option A, synecdoche. B, irony. Option C, onomatopoeia. D, epigram. The answer to this question is irony. Satirical from the word satire. We know that a satire is a writing, or satirical writing are writings that talk about the flaws or the failure of a society, of politics, you understand? So they use exaggeration, humor, ridicule, irony to depict the flaws of a society, okay, or the failure of a society. So we know that irony is saying the opposite of what you really mean, right? Onomatopoeia is the formation of words by the sounds associated with the name. Okay, so the answer to this question is definitely option B, irony. Question 10. What figure of speech is used in the expression below? I have been here 1,000 times. A, apostrophe. Option B, pun. Option C, personification. Option D, hyperbole. The answer to this question is definitely hyperbole. Hyperbole is the use of exaggeration. So when you say I've been here 1,000 times, okay, that's the use of you're just exaggerating, okay, that you've been here several times. So the use of 1,000 times is just stretching it, okay. So personification is giving the qualities of humans to inanimate objects. Pun is definitely play on words, while apostrophe is to directly address objects or concepts or ideas, okay. So option D is the final answer to this question. Question 11. Use the quotation below to answer this question. Okay, so this is an extract from Wole Soyinka's King Babu. So Bash is saying, "You dumb skull of a bonehead, you will face court martial for this. You look everywhere. You searched inside toilet bowl." So from the tone of the speech above, the speaker is obviously A, lackadaisical. Option B, elated. C, happy. D, enraged. The answer is definitely enraged, very angry. Even with the first sentence, "You dumb skull of a bonehead." So we know that the person is angry. So option D is the final answer to this question. Question 12. That year, the harvest was sad like a funeral, and many farmers wept as they dug up the miserable yams. One man tied his clothes to a tree branch and hanged themselves. So this is Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. The mood conveyed in the excerpt above is one of dash. A, frustration. B, sympathy. C, dilemma. D, sadness. The answer to this question is sadness. Now, what is mood? Mood is the general atmosphere of peace, or we can say it is the overall feeling that is conveyed to us as readers. Now, the diction, which is the choice of words and imagery, can convey the mood to us, okay? And tone also can convey the mood to us as readers. Now, let's take a look at the choice of words. That year, the harvest was sad, like a funeral. Okay, so this tells us that it was a tragic year, and we can see that the atmosphere is completely sad. Okay, so in most cases, the words or the choice of words you use for your tone are also applicable for your mood. Okay, so the answer to this question is definitely option D, sadness. Question 13. That age is best, which is the first, when youth and blood have warmer, but being spent the worst and worst, times two succeeds the former. The rhyming scheme in the excerpt above is dash. Okay, so to find the rhyme scheme, what you do is you pay attention to the last sound of each line. Okay, so this is the last word of each line, and the last sound is here is the schwa sound. The last is and the last also is the schwa sound. Okay, so this makes it A, then B, right? Because it's different, and alphabetically we start with A, then next is B, right? Then we also have A here because it is the same, and then B here because it is the same with the second line. So we have A, B, A, B. So we can find this in option B, A, B, A, B. So option B is the final answer to this question. Question 14. But the towering earth was start sitting in one position. She moved suddenly, and the houses crumbled, the mountains heaved horribly, and the work of 1,000,000 years was lost. The subject matter of the extract above is A. Sea waves, B. House movements, C. Earthquake, D. Storm. The answer to this question is definitely earthquake. Now we know that earthquake is a natural disaster. It is very destructive, and we know it's characterized by the sudden movement of the earth, or the sudden violent shaking of the ground which erupts volcano, right? Okay, so this describes the effect of an earthquake. But the towering earth was tired of sitting in one position because it shakes the ground. It's violent, okay? And she moved, the earth moved, okay, suddenly, and the house crumbling, so houses are falling apart, buildings are crumbling, the mountains heaved horribly, and the work of 1,000,000 years was lost. So this signifies the destructive effect of earthquake. So the answer to this question is definitely option C. Question 15. What figure of speech is conveyed in the sentence below? The booming of the gun. A. Onomatopoeia. Option B. Synecdoche. Option C. Metaphor. Option D. Irony. The answer to this question is obviously option A. Onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the formation of words by the sound associated with the name. So the sound associated with the name gun is boom, right? So booming of the gun. Okay, so synecdoche is using a part to represent a whole, or a whole to represent a part. Metaphor is a direct comparison between two things. Irony is saying the opposite of what you mean. Okay, so the answer to this question is obviously option A, onomatopoeia. Question 16. Don't panic, be calm. If you are somehow upset, try to regain your exposure. The speaker in the excerpt above is A. Uncertain, B. Afraid, option C. Confident, option D. Hopeless. The answer to this question is definitely confidence. Now you can see, don't panic, be calm. This person is confident, is self-assured, is bold, is positive, is assertive, okay? So if you are someone upset, try to regain your exposure. So option C is the best answer to this question. Question 17. Use the lines below to answer this question. So move him into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once. At home whispering of fields unsown. Always it woke him even in France. Until this morning and this snow. If anything might rouse him now, this kind old sun will know. Think how it wakes the seeds. Woke once the clay of a cold star. Our limbs so dear achieved our sight. Full nerves still warm, too hard to stare. Was it for this the clay grew tall? Oh, what made Father's sunbeam toil? To break her sleep at all? The poem can be described as dash. A. An epic. B. A sonnet. C. An elegy. D. A lyric. Okay, so an epic is a poem that talks about the extraordinary deed of a person. B. A sonnet is a 14-line poem. C. An elegy is a poem that laments the dead. D. A lyric is a musical poem that expresses emotion, feelings. Okay, so this is definitely not a lyric. This is not an elegy. It is not an epic because it does not talk about the extraordinary deed of an extraordinary person. Okay, so the answer to this question is a sonnet because it is a 14-line poem. Now let's take a look at this poem. Let's count it to confirm that it is a sonnet. So move him into the sun. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So therefore, this is a sonnet. Option B is the correct answer to this question. Do you have questions you would like to ask? Go ahead and ask your questions by using the link in the description below. Please click on this link. It takes you to the Myschool website. There you can ask as many questions as possible and solutions will be provided to you within a short period of time. Now moving on to question 18. Okay, so use the lines above to answer this question. Okay, so this is the same poem we used in question 17. So we've taken a part of the poem for this question. Okay, the theme of the poem is A, distortion of life, creation of life, vanity of life, the futility of life. The answer to this question is futility of life. Okay, so the poem talks about the rising of the sun and then the transition in between morning and night, between life and death, which signifies life and death. So let's start with this. Walk once the clay of a cold star. This talks about the presence of life. Walk once the clay. Now in biblical terms, we were made from clay, isn't it? So the presence of life in a cold planet. Now cold is something that is a negative word, can be used in the negative sense to mean someone that's not friendly or that's not, welcoming. So in a cold planet, in a cold world, in a cold earth, okay, our limbs so dear achieved our side, full nerves still warm, too hard to stay. So this talks about death. When someone dies, or if you have dead bodies, they are not precious. They are just there, okay? Was it for this the clay grew tall? So the poor persona is questioning the essence of life. That did life emerge so that it can die? Why is there life and why is there death? Why do we have life when we are still going to die as a person? So did life emerge so that it would die again? Okay. Oh, what fatuous sunbeam tall. So it's saying that the rising of the sun is just useless since it would go down again. So, oh, what made fatuous sunbeam tall to break earth's sleep at all? So it's saying, oh, why is the sun beaming? Why is it disturbing the earth's sleep? Why doesn't it just be and let the earth be sleeping? Okay, so it talks about the futility of life. Okay, the futility of life in the face of death. Okay, the transitioning between life and death is just useless. If there's going to be life, let there be life. And if it is death, let it just be like that. Okay, so it's futility of life, just uselessness. Everything is just the sunlight, the life itself is useless, and that is what the poem is all about. So option D is the final answer to this question. Do you have better solution, steps, or explanation to any of those questions? Please feel free to share this with us. Indicate the question and the solutions you would like to share in the comment section below. Question 19. So the rhyme scheme of the stanza above is dash. So we need to concentrate on the last word, and the main focus is the last sound of each word. So we have fast, we have crutch, we have place, and we have much. So the last sound is, and the last sound is ch, and the last sound is. Then line 4, the last sound is also ch. So this is A, B, A again because it's the same with line 1, and B again because it's the same with line 2. So we have A, B, A, B, and we can find this in option A. Option A is the final answer to this question. Question 20. A play that mainly aims at provoking excessive laughter is called dash. A, comedy. B, farce. C, satire. D, a tragic comedy. Now if you take a look at all of these options, one thing is common among them, and that's the fact that they all provoke laughter. Okay, so but then option B is the answer to this question, because a farce is a humorous play or a dramatic comedy that aims to entertain its audience through ridiculous situation, exaggerated situation. Okay, the answer to this question is farce. But when you consider comedy, or you consider satire, or you consider a tragic comedy, you see that it can apply to a prose work, not just a play. Okay, not just a drama text. It could apply to a prose work. You can find these elements in a prose work. Okay, so the answer to this question is option B, because farce is a dramatic comedy. Okay, so option B is the final answer to this question. We've come to the end of the segment. I believe it was impactful. Thank you for staying tuned. Do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button, and lastly, tap on the bell notification to get informed as soon as we release the next videos.